Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really digging into something fascinating. It's this whole world of entertainment idols.
Mm-hmm. A huge cultural force.
Exactly. We want to pull back the curtain, explore how they came about, why we connect with them so intensely, from the very beginnings right up to the global stars we see everywhere today.
Yeah.
Our goal really is to give you a kind of shortcut.
Yeah.
Help you understand this massive cultural engine. Hopefully you'll get some surprising facts, maybe a few aha moments about, your own connection to public figures.
That's a great way to put it.
We're going to trace this path, starting way back with the engineered mystique of Motown stars.
Right.
Then we'll shift over to the East, look at the really structured, almost industrial idol industry in K-pop and J-pop.
Very different models.
Yeah, and then bring it all back. What does it mean for us now living in this super connected world? It's going to be a journey into, the surprising overlaps and the big differences in how these figures are made and how we consume them.
And that's exactly why this is so relevant. Right now, these idol figures, they're not just on the sidelines anymore. They're really present in our daily lives, aren't they? Like constantly on our phones, our social feeds, and this whole idea of parasocial relationships.
Like one-sided bond.
Exactly. That feeling of knowing someone you don't actually know, it's just exploded. The scope, the intensity, it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're exploring today is this incredible mix. It's art, it's commerce, it's psychology, and just raw human emotion.
Yeah.
It's such a rich area because it tells us so much about how we look for connection, how we project our dreams, and how we deal with media today.
Okay, so let's start right there, the basics. When we talk about an idol in entertainment,
yeah.
What is that? Really, it feels like more than just celebrity.
Oh, absolutely. You're spot on. It carries so much more weight. Historically, the word idol, it came from religion.
Right, like statues, gods.
Precisely. Objects of worship, deep admiration, veneration even. The whole idea was rooted in devotion, maybe a kind of aspirational purity.
Right.
But then over time, especially with mass media photos, film, pop music, that concept started shifting. It moved from the sacred to the secular.
Like entertainment.
Yeah, it began morphing into the figures we kind of recognize now. But, and this is key, that core idea of evoking intense admiration, devotion, that feeling of almost personal significance, a lot of that actually remained.
Huh. So it's not just about the performance then?
That's the crucial distinction right there. An idol's main job isn't just to perform. It's not only about singing the song or acting the part or the dancing, though obviously many are incredibly talented performers.
Of course.
Their fundamental purpose, the reason they exist in this framework, is to spark intense emotional attachment in you, the audience.
Okay, so attachment is the goal.
Yes. A regular celebrity might be famous for their skill, their acting chops, their voice. But an idol, they're famous in large part for their perceived connection with you, the fan. They are intentionally shaped, managed, presented in a way to generate and crucially sustain that deep emotional bond. It often goes way beyond the performance itself. Their whole persona, really, becomes the product.
That distinction really nails it. And that's where parasocial relationships fits in, isn't it?
Exactly.
That feeling like you know someone, but they have zero idea who you are. It's wild how our brains do that.
It truly is. Parasocial relationships are these one-sided emotional bonds. The fan feels deeply, intimately connected to a public figure.
Right.
You, as the fan, you invest your time, your emotional energy, sometimes even your money into this connection. But the public figure, they aren't aware of you as an individual. They don't reciprocate in that personal, direct way. It's all about perception, not mutual interaction.
So how does that actually happen? Psychologically?
Well, it's fascinating. It's mostly fostered by a sense of proximity, even if that closeness is just through a screen. Think about how often you see these figures. Constant media exposure, right? Yeah. TV shows, movies, social media, live streams, interviews.
They're everywhere.
Exactly. This consistent presence builds familiarity. It almost feels like they're part of your daily routine, like a friend you check in with, even though it's totally one way.
Like they're just there.
Yeah. And then you add in the perceived shared experiences. When an idol talks about their struggles or their wins, or even just, what they had for breakfast.
Even if it's scripted.
Right. Even if it's a carefully crafted narrative, you might feel like you're going through it with them. You might project your own feelings onto them or find comfort when they seem vulnerable.
I see.
And this builds that powerful, even if one-sided sense of shared reality. It deepens the bond significantly. And, these bonds can meet real human needs.
Like what?
Well, a sense of belonging, maybe an escape, someone to look up to, or even just simple emotional comfort, like a steady, friendly presence in your day. They offer this kind of predictable emotional resonance that can be, frankly, incredibly comforting for people.
I can totally see that. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all felt a version of it, right? You feel like you know your favorite actor because
Mhm.
you've followed their career for years, seen all their interviews. Or you
Exactly.
get deeply attached to a TV character over multiple seasons. Or
Mhm.
even like a news anchor you watch every single night.
Mm.
You spend so much time with their public image, their persona.
Mm.
Even though, yeah, they have no clue who you are, that illusion of knowing is really strong.
It really is. And this leads us straight into the modern stakes of it all, because in today's entertainment world, that line between access, what we're allowed to see, and authenticity, what we perceive as real about them,
It's blurry.
it's not just blurry, it's often intentionally manipulated. The industry, the companies, the management teams, they are masters at crafting these images, these narratives that give the illusion of authenticity, of closeness.
How do they do that?
Well, think about it. A social media post that looks really candid, a carefully edited behind-the-scenes clip, an interview where an idol shares a supposedly vulnerable moment.
Mhm.
These are all calculated moves. They're pieces in a much bigger strategy. And this deliberate blurring, it's directly linked to how intense modern fandom gets and the huge emotional investment it demands.
Because if you think it's real.
Exactly. When fans believe they're seeing the real person or feel they have some kind of special access to the idol's inner world, that emotional connection just skyrockets. And
Yeah.
that heightened emotional investment, it translates directly into more loyalty, more engagement, and crucially, more financial support. It's this powerful feedback loop. Perceived intimacy drives engagement. Engagement reinforces the illusion, making the fan feel even more connected, more invested.
We see how powerful that is today, for sure. But what's really interesting, as you mentioned, is that this isn't actually new. Not at all.
No.
Long before K-pop took over the world, the seeds of this whole idol culture were being planted right here in Western pop music,
Yeah.
carefully cultivated.
Absolutely. If you look back, especially at Black American entertainers in the mid-20th century, you see this incredible, almost foundational blueprint for intentional image curation. Berry Gordy's Motown label is probably the prime example.
Motown, right.
Gordy wasn't just starting a record company, he was building like a cultural force, a finishing school. Almost a star factory?
A finishing school.
Yeah. He had this deliberate strategy about how engineer perfect, respectable images for his artists. Not to stifle their talent, obviously they were immensely talented, but to ensure they could achieve crossover appeal. This was a time, remember, when racial barriers in entertainment, in society, were huge and explicit.
So it was strategic.
Highly strategic. The real aha moment is how Gordy understood that to break down those barriers in the 60s, his artists needed to project this image of, like, unimpeachable perfection.
Wow.
He started something called artist development. Artists like the Supremes, the Temptations, Martha Reeves, they went through intense training, etiquette, how to speak, choreography, stage presence,
Right.
everything. How to walk, how to talk, how to handle interviews, even how to eat properly in public. It wasn't just branding. It was, in a way, a deliberate act of cultural engineering, proving that meticulous image and conduct could create an appeal so universal it could overcome prejudice. It was a specific plan for how image could drive social and commercial change in entertainment.
That's incredible. So, like Diana Ross and the Supremes.
Perfect example. Their elegance, those synchronized moves, their pristine look, every single detail was meticulously controlled. They projected the sophisticated glamour. It was aspirational, but also kind of reassuringly safe for a broader, mostly white audience at the time.
And the Jackson 5.
Same idea, different package. From day one, that image of wholesome, family-friendly prodigies, their perfect synchronization, even aspects of their personal lives carefully managed.
And Michael Jackson himself, later on.
Well, he's a monumental case, isn't he? He went from that engineered purity of the Jackson 5, the innocent, unbelievably talented kid, to becoming this almost mythical global icon. His life was intensely scrutinized, every move picked apart. Yet paradoxically, so much of his public persona remained tightly controlled, highly curated. Even when scandals hit, his teams worked relentlessly to manage the narrative, maintain that almost otherworldly mystique around him. His whole life became like a meticulously choreographed performance, blurring artist and art, cultivating this sense of distant awe.
And it wasn't just Motown doing this, right? This kind of image control happened with other big Western pop stars, too, especially the divas.
That's absolutely right. The diva era really cemented this idea of deliberate image control, maybe with a slightly different flavor. Think about Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey.
Icon.
Total icons. And their labels carefully branded them to embody vocal perfection and this kind of aspirational glamour. Their amazing voices were central, obviously, but so is this glamorous, almost untouchable lifestyle.
Access was limited.
It's very limited. Public access was tightly managed. Interviews were usually controlled, appearances carefully staged. The focus was on their talent, their success, less on personal vulnerability. They projected sophisticated artistry, aspirational success. It created a certain distance that fostered awe, not necessarily intimacy.
Yeah.
You admired them, you wanted their success, but you didn't feel like you were, their best friend. They were on a different level.
Okay. And how does someone like Beyoncé fit into this today? She seems like the modern version of that controlled mystique.
I'd say she's arguably the peak evolution of that Western mystique, but perfectly adapted for the digital age. She's an absolute master of the controlled media presence, even now when everyone seems to share everything.
You rarely see her just talking off the cuff.
Almost never. Instead, she communicates through these highly curated visual albums, think Lemonade or Black is King.
Huge events.
Exactly. Perfect social media posts, strategic, perfectly timed releases that dominate the conversation. Her tours are these immense, meticulously designed experiences, part concert, part art installation.
It's all very deliberate.
Completely deliberate. It's a strategy to maintain an almost mythic status. By controlling her narrative so tightly, she reinforces that sense of awe, that aspirational distance. Every glimpse she does offer feels incredibly significant, precious. She embodies this pinnacle of an artist, controlling her brand so thoroughly that she seems both immensely powerful and deeply enigmatic. It draws you in with this aura of untouchable greatness.
So the main takeaway here seems clear. This kind of curation, this control, engineering an image, it's not new at all.
Not at all.
It was happening long before live streams, way before K-pop became a global thing, before the internet even looked like it does now. It just had different packaging. Managing perception, crafting that narrative.
Yeah.
It's fundamental to celebrity, isn't it?
Exactly. The tools change, the platforms evolve, but that core strategy, managing perception, crafting a narrative, creating a product that's more than just the music or the performance. It's about selling an entire aspirational package, a carefully cultivated emotional experience for the audience. It's about selling a dream. It's always been there.
Okay, so we've looked at that Western model engineered mystique built on distance and awe. But how did that change when we look east, specifically J-pop and K-pop, where idol industry isn't just like a concept, it's the actual business model. It's literally how stars are made.
Right. This is where you see idol creation become overtly industrialized. It's systematized. And it's even more deeply woven into how fans interact with them. In Japan, for instance, you have giants like Johnny's Entertainment.
Sony's, yeah.
They've been managing male idol groups like SMA or Rashi for decades. Their system is incredibly rigorous, training in singing, dancing, acting, even variety show skills. Maintaining image consistency, fostering this incredibly loyal fan base through exclusive clubs, tightly controlled media. They're trained to be versatile entertainers, almost like living brands.
And then there's AKB48.
AKB48, perhaps the most explicit example. This massive, rotating girl group embodies Japan's idols you can meet model. Accessibility and emotional connection aren't just side effects, they are explicitly monetized. They are the product.
What do you mean idols you can meet?
Well, imagine a group with dozens, sometimes over 100 members, constantly changing. The most famous part is the handshake event economy.
Handshake events.
Yeah. Fans don't just buy one CD. They buy multiple copies, sometimes hundreds, maybe thousands, because each CD often includes a ticket for a handshake event.
A ticket to shake their hand.
Literally. It gives you a few precious seconds, often just 5 or 10 seconds to meet, shake hands, say a few words to your favorite member.
Wow.
It fosters this incredibly powerful, perceived, direct connection. Fans feel like they're not just supporting some distant star, they're genuinely interacting, building a personal bond, even if it's super brief and, well, superficial. The fan invests time, money. The idol offers a fleeting moment of recognition. That moment is hugely valuable to the fan.
That's intense. What else?
Well, building on that, AKB48 is famous for its voting system.
Yeah.
The Senbatsu Sunchyo, or general election. Fans buy more products, like extra CDs, to get more votes for their favorite members. These votes directly decide who's in the next single, who gets the center spot, who's in commercials, even who might graduate or stay.
So fans control their careers.
It creates that feeling of agency, right?
Yeah.
Intense fan investment. You feel like you're directly shaping your idol's future. Their success becomes your success. It binds your emotional and financial investment straight to their career path. Availability, emotional access. It's the core product, not just a bonus. It's a genius, if demanding, feedback loop.
That is an incredible level of integration and, yeah, financial commitment.
Yeah.
So then moving to K-pop, it feels like that system takes the idea of personality as product even further, right?
Yeah.
With that intense trainee system.
It absolutely does. The K-pop trainee system is legendary for its intensity, its comprehensiveness. Aspiring idols, some starting as preteens, enter these years-long training programs. They're basically full-time apprenticeships.
It's not just singing and dancing lessons.
Oh no. It's rigorous, all-encompassing. Singing, dancing, yes, but also foreign languages vital for global reach, media training, stage presence, and crucially, personality development.
Personality development.
Yes. Trainees often live together in dorms. Their days are packed, like 12, 14 hours of classes and practice. Strict diets, limited outside contact. It's fiercely competitive. Only a tiny fraction actually debut.
So every aspect is planned.
Meticulously. It's called image planning, or concept. That covers their on-stage look, sound, style for each release, but also their off-stage personality.
The offstage part is planned too.
It's not left to chance. They're coached on how to act in interviews, on variety shows, on fan platforms, social media. How to seem relatable, charming, vulnerable, funny, even cool and aspirational specific ways designed to appeal to their target audience. The core idea. The idol's personality itself is a major curated part of the product you're buying.
So you're not just buying music.
You're buying into this carefully constructed, idealized version of a person, someone you can form deep parasocial bonds with, feeling like you know the real person, even when that realness is part of the meticulously engineered package.
Is that why things like dating bans exist?
That's a big part of it, yeah. Especially early in careers. The perception of availability, maintaining that idealized, almost pure fantasy for fans, is often seen as paramount. A real relationship can shatter that illusion for a dedicated fan base, particularly one that feels a strong sense of ownership or connection.
We've seen the system grow over time.
Right, definitely. Early groups like TVXQ, Girls' Generation, they really laid the groundwork, proved the model worked commercially.
And now?
Now you have global phenomena like BTS and Blackpink. Incredible soloists like IU, they exemplify that polished perfection, that aspirational quality. Every comeback, every post, every performance is highly refined, designed for awe and connection, but also that sense of aspirational achievement. BTS, for example, got huge traction sharing a more authentic story of struggle.
Which was still strategic.
Exactly. Still part of a very effective, meticulously planned strategy to deepen that connection.
And what about someone like Wonho? You mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, he's a fascinating modern example. His frequent live streams, his very public, body-positive comeback after a past scandal.
How does that fit?
Well, these elements are specifically designed to make him feel real, accessible. He shares glimpses of daily life, interacts directly with fans in a way that feels unscripted, almost intimate. But even those moments of perceived authenticity are still happening within that tightly engineered K-pop framework. It just shows how sophisticated the industry has become at delivering that illusion of closeness.
Okay, that's a really powerful contrast. Looking at these superstructured Asian idol systems, then back at the Western model of engineered mystique,
Yeah.
it does raise that tricky question. Are Asian idols somehow more fake? Or is there something else going on, a cultural difference maybe?
Yeah, it's a really sharp question, and it's easy to jump to that conclusion, isn't it? But I wouldn't say K-pop or J-pop idols are necessarily more curated. I think the difference is that the curation is often more explicitly acknowledged. It's part of the known industry model. In the West, especially earlier on, that meticulous crafting, the finishing schools, the narrative, it was often presented like it was just natural stardom, organic talent, organic charisma.
It could just happen.
Yeah. The engineering was often hidden, downplayed, kind of a secret. In the Asian idol industry, it's more openly understood by the public, by the fans even, that these idols are products of a system. Even while the illusion of natural talent and personality is still absolutely crucial within that system, it's like an open secret.
Okay, so it's about how visible the making is. What else?
The evolution of access is another huge differentiator. Historically, Western idols think old Hollywood stars, the classic divas. They maintained that aura of mystery, awe, distance.
Untouchable.
Right. Access was limited, interviews controlled, they cultivated inaccessibility, and that created this powerful longing in the audience, a desire for more. a feeling they were seeing something rare, special. Their power was partly in their remoteness.
Whereas Asian idols,
Especially K-pop idols now, maintain this constant, almost pervasive public presence. Frequent, often daily content. Social media, live streams, behind-the-scenes stuff, fan platforms like Weverse or Bubble.
they feel like they're always there.
Exactly. It cultivates this sense of intimacy, availability. You feel like you're always getting a piece of their life, even if those pieces are carefully chosen. It creates familiarity, like you're in on their daily lives. A powerful sense of reliance. It's less about distant awe, much more about cultivated closeness.
So two different ways to manage fan psychology, basically.
Pretty much. Both incredibly effective, even if the goal, deep, sustained fan engagement and loyalty is similar.
How do they manipulate the psychology differently?
Well, Western stars, historically, often played on awe, admiration, longing for the unattainable, power through distance. You collected their stuff, watched them, maybe saw a concert, but there was a clear boundary.
And K-pop, J-pop?
They actively cultivate intimacy, familiarity, reliance. They want fans to feel essential to the idol's journey, like a friend, family, a crucial supporter. Deeply invested in their daily life, their success.
Makes fans feel part of an inner circle.
Precisely. Fosters community, shared purpose, almost mutual dependence. It's just a different emotional contract being offered.
And you mentioned cultural context earlier. That must play a huge role.
Oh, absolutely massive. You can't ignore it. In many East Asian cultures, there's often a stronger emphasis on collectivism, group harmony, compared to Western individualism, and often a prevalent ideal of purity or cleanliness for public figures.
So does that affect idols?
It deeply influences the focus on group synchronization, perfect behavior, maintaining that clean, wholesome image. Any scandal dating, past mistakes, even minor controversies can trigger much harsher reactions, public and industry-wise.
Because it shatters the ideal.
Exactly. It shatters that carefully built ideal of purity and perfection. The idol isn't just representing themselves, they represent the group, the agency. Their misstep reflects on everyone.
Whereas in the West,
contrast that with American individualism, that diva branding we talked about. Western stars often embrace flaws, controversies, even rebellion as part of their brand. Think of artists who built careers being outsiders or provocative.
right, authenticity through realness.
Yeah, even if that realness is also curated. A bad girl or bad boy image in the West can be a powerful marketing tool. It signals independence, individuality. In K-pop, for many that would likely be career-ending. These deep cultural values shape everything. How idols are made, presented, how fans engage, how careers are managed.
That cultural lens makes so much sense. Okay, to really make this concrete, let's zoom in on that modern example you brought up. Wonho. It seems like his case really highlights this illusion of closeness, the crafting of authenticity.
Yeah, Wonho is a really compelling and nuanced case study here. It brings up the complexities of perceived authenticity inside the K-pop system. For me, personally, it's interesting. Watching something like the anime Oshinoko, which is a very sharp, sometimes cynical take on the manufactured side of the idol world.
Right, critiques the industry.
Heavily. Watching that can feel pretty conflicting when, at the same time, I might feel this strong sense of closeness to an idol like Wonho through his content. That friction really highlights how powerful these feelings are, how they're cultivated, and how we as fans kind of navigate knowing versus feeling.
So what is it about Wonho that creates that feeling? You mentioned live streams.
Yeah, a huge part of his appeal, especially solo, is his frequent live streams, the casual talk. He often streams from home, just doing mundane stuff, eating, working out, cooking.
Very everyday.
Right. He chats with fans, seems to respond to comments in real time, even if he can't get to all of them. Because he's solo now, not in a huge group, and maybe his fan base, while super dedicated, isn't quite at that BTS or Blackpink scale. These moments can feel much more authentic, like a more direct, unfiltered connection is happening.
So why does it feel more authentic? What's the psychology there?
Well, it's those seemingly unscripted bits, right? The small hesitations, the glimpses of daily life showing his pets, his messy room, whatever. The direct, even if one-sided interaction via comments. He might show up without makeup, in comfy clothes. It feels relatable.
Less polished.
Less like a perfect performance, more like a window into someone's actual life, or at least a very well-curated version of one. But, and this is critical, feeling more authentic isn't the same as being uncurated.
Still managed.
Absolutely. Even those streams, spontaneous as they seem, happen within a managed PR framework. He knows he's on camera, knows his words are being consumed. There's an understanding of what's okay to share. It's calculated intimacy, a masterclass in giving the illusion of unvarnished access.
And his comeback story after leaving his group.
That's also incredibly powerful in his narrative.
Yeah.
His solo comeback after leaving Monsta X under controversial circumstances, which he was later cleared of, was explicitly framed around vulnerability, resilience, growth. Songs like Open Mind, talking openly about struggles, his determination to return for his fans. This fits a classic idol narrative strategy.
Your redemption arc.
Exactly. Fall from grace, reflection or absence, triumphant return, often with this added layer of perceived humility, honesty, that vulnerability. It's incredibly powerful. It can be leveraged to deepen fan investment, makes the idol feel more human, relatable, reinforces the realness of their journey, even if it's a carefully shaped story. Fans feel part of that redemption, solidifies their bond, turns them into fiercely loyal supporters.
So that leads to an interesting thought, what you call the plateauing illusion.
Yeah, it's this question. If an idol plateaus, maybe they aren't hitting peak global stardom constantly. Their career isn't always skyrocketing. They're not always in the mainstream glare. Do they become more real?
Right.
Or do they just get better at maintaining that illusion of closeness, but with a more dedicated, maybe slightly smaller, but incredibly loyal core fan base? It's a paradox.
How so?
For some fans, an idol who isn't always in the global spotlight might feel more accessible, less manufactured than a group at the absolute top. They might perceive a more direct relationship because the scale allows for different interactions.
But it's still managed.
It's still a carefully managed relationship designed to keep that core loyalty strong. So it raises questions about how fans engage with idols whose careers seem less perfect or maybe less globally aspirational, but who paradoxically feel more accessible and maybe even more deeply connected because of it. The illusion just shifts its focus, but it's still meticulously maintained.
Okay, so after this whole deep dive, how idols are made, perceived, how these intense connections are built and monetized, the cultural differences, what does this actually mean for you, the fan? How can we enjoy all this, the music, the artistry, without getting sucked into emotional overinvestment or blurring lines in an unhealthy way? Is there a path to, like, healthier fandom?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Moving from understanding to applying it. First, I think it's vital to acknowledge the artistry, the talent, the sheer hard work that goes into these performances.
Yeah, they train for years.
Exactly. They dedicate their lives, pour themselves into their craft. That deserves respect, appreciation. However, it's just as important to always remember their public personas are still carefully constructed performances.
It's not the real them.
What you see on screen, read in interviews, experience in a live stream, it's curated. It's a presentation for public consumption, not an unfiltered look into their private self. You have to hold both truths. Immense talent, expertly delivered performance.
Okay, what else?
Second, consciously budget your resources, your time, your money, your emotional energy.
Budgeting emotions.
In a way, yes. Engage because it brings you joy, inspiration, fun, and escape. But try to avoid seeking validation from them or feeling obligated to support them financially beyond what's healthy for you or feeling emotionally responsible for their happiness or career.
Set limits.
Yeah, like set a monthly budget for merch or tickets and stick to it. Limit time on fan forums if it gets stressful. Your investment should be about your enjoyment, not their burden or a measure of your worth.
Makes sense. What's third?
Understand that when you invest, you're supporting a huge, complex industry, a whole system, not just one person.
Right. The companies, producers.
Exactly. The money goes to the companies, stylists, choreographers, songwriters, the whole machine. It's not a direct personal gift to the idol, even if it feels like that sometimes. Knowing this helps put your support in a more realistic context, detaches it from feeling like a personal obligation.
Okay.
Fourth, use fandom to build positive communities. Connect with people who share your passion. That can be incredibly rewarding. Discussions, fan creations, enjoying content together. It builds belonging. But recognize the boundaries. Avoid getting possessive or entitled towards the idols. Don't feel you have a right to dictate their personal lives, their career choices, or even how other fans should behave. Your connection is with the public persona. Your community is your fellow fans, not the idol themselves. This helps avoid some of the toxicity that can crop up.
Good point. And finally,
and maybe this is the most important, let your admiration uplift and inspire your own identity and self-worth. Don't let it replace it.
How do you mean?
Their talent, dedication, charisma that can be genuinely inspiring. It can motivate you in your own life, pursue your dreams, work hard, be creative, connect with art. But it should never displace or diminish your own identity, your own self-worth. You are valuable, separate from any idol you admire. Their success doesn't define you. Your well-being shouldn't hinge entirely on their career. It's about drawing inspiration, not feeling inadequate or becoming a shadow.
Okay, that's really helpful advice.
So yeah, to kind of wrap up this deep dive, the idol themselves, they aren't the problem. It's the illusion of knowing them intimately that we need to navigate carefully.
Right.
Whether it's the elegance of Diana Ross, the enigma of Michael Jackson, the accessibility of AKB48, or the perceived intimacy of Wonho. The feelings they spark in us, awe, connection, joy, comfort, those feelings are real. Absolutely real.
They are feelings.
Exactly. They're generated within you by the experience these artists and their teams present. And because they are your feelings, you have the agency, the power to manage them. With care, clarity, self-awareness, it's about enjoying the art, appreciating the performance, without losing yourself in the illusion, understanding that you are the architect of your own emotional world.
As we finish up this deep dive, here's something to think about. We live in an age where technology, even AI, can create more and more convincing, authentic personas. The lines between real and constructed are blurring even further. Imagine AI idols who can talk directly to millions of fans at once.
It's coming.
So how do we cultivate not just healthy relationships with our idols, but a more discerning, more empowered relationship with the algorithms, the platforms, the very tech that brings them closer than ever? How do we make sure our admiration genuinely uplifts us and doesn't just feed a constant demand for our attention, our emotion, or worse, trick us into thinking a program is a real connection? Something to ponder. Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive. Keep exploring these dynamics in your own way.